That's not up to code, I said. Derek Holloway looked at me like I'd just told him electricity runs on wishes and YouTube tutorials. Nobody's gonna know the difference, Frank. I tapped the exposed junction box with my voltage tester. The inspector will know. I'll know. And when this place burns down in 3 years, the insurance investigator will definitely know. He actually laughed. Stood there in his $200 boots that had never seen a day of real work and laughed at me. You know what your problem is, old man? You're stuck in the past. This is how we do things now. Fast, efficient, profitable. I set my tools down carefully. 32 years of instinct told me this conversation was heading somewhere I'd regret. Fast doesn't mean safe. Efficient doesn't mean right. And expensive doesn't mean better. He crossed his arms. I can get 3 guys from the temp agency to do what you do for 1/3 of the cost. They don't ask questions. They just work. That's when I knew. Not suspected. Knew. I pulled my license card from my wallet. Master Electrician, State of Texas. Certificate number E89347. Laid it on top of the panel box I'd been wiring. You're gonna need this back by tomorrow morning. After that, every permit in this building goes red. Then I walked off that job site for the last time. My name is Frank Castellano. Most people call me Frank. Some of the old-timers call me Frankie. I'm 54 years old and I just got fired by a 31-year-old contractor who thinks code compliance is optional. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. You can tell the quality of a contractor by looking at their truck. Derek Holloway drove a brand new Ram 3500 with custom paint, leather seats, and a bed so clean you could eat off it. My F-250 was 12 years old with 240,000 miles, paint chipped from ladder racks, and a toolbox that had been dropped, dented, and duct-taped more times than I could count. His truck was for showing up to job sites and taking photos for Instagram. Mine was for actually working. I'd been running electrical for Holloway Construction for 6 years. Good money, steady work, big commercial projects around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Office buildings, retail spaces, small industrial facilities. The kind of jobs where you needed someone who knew the National Electrical Code forwards and backwards. Someone who could calculate load requirements in their sleep. Someone inspectors trusted. That someone was me. I learned the trade the old way. 4-year apprenticeship under a master electrician named Tony Russo, who'd survived 3 decades in New York construction. Tony taught me that electrical work isn't about making things work. It's about making things work safely for the next 50 years. Electricity doesn't care about your shortcuts, he'd say. It'll wait 5 years, then burn down everything you love. By the time I was 30, I had my master license. By 40, I'd wired everything from hospitals to high-rises. I'd been on jobs where one mistake could kill people, where load calculations mattered, where you didn't guess, you knew. Derek Holloway inherited his father's construction company 3 years ago when the old man retired to Arizona. Derek Sr. was old school, built the business on reputation and quality. Derek Jr. saw opportunity in optimization. He was 31, wore designer jeans to job sites, and had a business degree from TCU. He talked about disrupting the construction industry and maximizing margin efficiency. He'd never pulled wire, never bent conduit, never stood in an attic in August, sweating through his shirt while running circuits. But he had opinions, lots of them. His first week running the company, he called a meeting. All the trades, electricians, plumbers, HVAC guys, carpenters. 26 of us crammed into the office conference room that still smelled like his father's cigars. We're entering a new era, Derek announced, standing at the head of the table in his company polo that looked like it came from a country club. The industry is changing. We need to be leaner, faster, more competitive. That means finding efficiencies. I sat near the back, next to Miguel Rodriguez, a plumber I'd worked with for years. We exchanged looks. In construction, finding efficiencies usually meant cutting corners. Some of you have been doing things the same way for decades, Derek continued. His eyes landed on me for a second. And that's great, really, but we need to be willing to adapt, use new methods, new materials, new approaches that might not be in some outdated manual. Miguel leaned over. He's talking about the code, he whispered. I know, I said quietly. The National Electrical Code isn't a suggestion. It's the minimum standard for safe electrical installation, updated every 3 years by engineers and safety experts who actually understand how electricity kills people. Every licensed electrician in America is bound by it. Every inspector checks for it. Every insurance policy requires it. Derek thought it was outdated manual. The first time he asked me to cut corners, I'd been working on a retail development in Plano. Big box stores, restaurants, parking lot lighting. The electrical design called for 12-gauge wire on the 20-amp circuits, standard, safe, what the permit specified. Derek walked the site, looked at my material order, and frowned. Why are we using 12-gauge here? 14-gauge is cheaper. Because it's a 20-amp circuit, I explained. Code requires 12-gauge for 20-amp, 14-gauge is only rated for 15. But will it work? Will it work, or will it work safely for 30 years? He smiled like I'd made a joke. Frank, I get that you're thorough. That's great, but we need to think about cost. 14-gauge is 40% cheaper. It's also a code violation. Inspector will red tag it. Only if he checks every circuit. I stared at him. That's his job. Derek put his hand on my shoulder like we were buddies. Look, I'm not asking you to do anything dangerous. Just efficient. The wire will work fine. It's barely any different. That's when I knew he didn't understand. Wire gauge isn't about whether it works right now. It's about thermal capacity. About what happens when someone downstream adds more load, about preventing fires in walls where nobody can see the problem until it's too late. I used 12-gauge. Ordered it myself, ate the argument, moved on. But it kept happening. Next job, he wanted me to skip ground fault protection in the bathrooms. Adds $80 per outlet. Nobody will know. The inspector will know. And when someone gets electrocuted, their lawyer will definitely know. Job after that, he asked me to reuse old panel boxes from a demolition. Boxes that didn't meet current rating standards, that had rust and wear, that no inspector would approve. We saved $2,000 in materials, he said proudly. We created a future lawsuit, I said. Every time I pushed back. Every time he got more frustrated. Every time I documented everything. Emails, texts, photos of what he wanted versus what I actually installed. Kept it all in a folder on my laptop marked CYA, cover your ass. My wife Maria had been watching this unfold for months. She was 52, worked as a nurse at Methodist Dallas, and had exactly zero patience for bullshit. We'd been married 28 years, raised 2 kids, buried her mother, survived my heart attack in 2019. She knew me better than I knew myself. He's going to fire you, she said one night over dinner. Our daughter Rosa was home visiting from grad school at A&M. She was 25, getting her MBA, and had inherited her mother's directness and my stubborn streak. Let him, I said. I can find work anywhere. Master electricians don't grow on trees. It's not about finding work, Maria said. It's about your reputation. If he fires you and then something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong with my work. I do everything by the book. But what about after you leave? What if he brings in someone who doesn't? That was the question I couldn't answer. Because here's what most people don't understand about electrical work. You can't see it. It's hidden in walls and ceilings and conduit and junction boxes where nobody looks until something goes wrong. A plumber's bad work leaks. A carpenter's bad work sags. But an electrician's bad work? It waits. It waits until someone plugs in one too many devices. Until insulation breaks down. Until a loose connection arcs and ignites the drywall at 2 a.m. when a family is sleeping. Tony Russo used to say, every wire you run, you're making a promise to people you'll never meet. Promise them it'll be there, safe, when their grandkids flip that switch. I'd made that promise on every job for 32 years. Derek Holloway didn't make promises. He made margins. The breaking point came on the Parkview office complex in Richardson. 8-story building, full commercial electrical system. My biggest job of the year. I'd spent 3 weeks designing the panel layouts, calculating loads, coordinating with the HVAC and data guys to make sure everything played nice together. Derek had been pushing alternative suppliers for months. Cheaper materials from overseas, vendors I'd never heard of, components that barely met spec, if they met it at all. One morning, I showed up to find my wire order had been changed. Instead of the south wire I'd specified, American-made, UL-listed, what the permit called for, there were pallets of wire from some company called Global Tech. Boxes with printing I couldn't read, certifications I couldn't verify, and insulation that felt wrong when I stripped it. I called Derek immediately. This isn't the wire I ordered. It's the same spec, just different supplier. Saves us $18,000 on materials. Is it UL listed? Pause. It has equivalent certification. That's not the same thing. The permit specifies UL listed materials. The inspector will. Frank. His voice got sharp. You're not listening. This is a business decision. The wire meets spec. Use it. Not until I verify the certifications. Send me the documentation. I don't have time for this. You've got a deadline. Then you've got a problem. He hung up. I pulled samples of the wire, took photos, documented everything. Called the inspector's office and asked about global tech certifications. The woman on the phone had never heard of them. If it's not UL or ETL listed, I can't approve it. That afternoon, Derek showed up on site with two guys I'd never seen before. Young, maybe mid-20s, wearing brand new tool belts that still had price tags. Frank, this is Jason and Marcus. They're going to help you catch up on the schedule. Help me. Like I was behind. Like I was the problem. They licensed? I asked. They're apprentices. Under whose license? Derek smiled. Yours. And that's when I understood. In Texas, apprentices can work under a master electrician's license, which means any work they do, any code violations, any safety issues, it all falls back on the master. On me. No, I said simply. Excuse me? I'm not supervising apprentices I haven't trained. I don't know their skill level, don't know if they can even read a code book. You want them to work here, get another master to supervise them. You're the master on this job. Then they don't work here. Derek stepped closer, trying to intimidate me, maybe. Hard to intimidate a guy who's been shocked by 277 volts and lived to laugh about it. You're being unreasonable. I'm being responsible. There's a difference. You know what I think? He crossed his arms. I think you're scared of being shown up by younger guys who work faster than you. I could have laughed, could have walked away, should have walked away. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened my photos and showed him the documentation I'd been keeping. 6 months of screenshots, emails, text messages where he'd asked me to violate code. Dates, times, specific violations. I think you're scared that when this building fails inspection, all this comes out. I think you're scared that when someone sues because your cheap wire burns the place down. My documentation shows exactly who made those decisions. His face went red. Actually red. You're fired. Good, I said. And I meant it. That's when I told him about the permits. Just so you know, I said, grabbing my main toolbox, every electrical permit on this job is stamped with my license number. That's how it works. The jurisdiction doesn't issue permits to companies. They issue them to licensed masters. Me. I let that sink in for a second. So here's what happens next. Tomorrow morning, I'm pulling my license from all active permits with the city. That includes this building, the strip mall in Carrollton, and the warehouse in Louisville. Code requires a licensed master to be actively supervising any work. No active master, no valid permit. No valid permit, no legal work. No legal work. Inspectors shut you down until you get a new master to stamp everything. Derek's expression shifted from angry to confused to something approaching panic. You can't do that. Already did it. Called the city on my way in this morning. Just had to confirm my employment status. I smiled. Soon as you said you're fired, it became official. Give it an hour, you'll get the notification. I picked up my tools and walked toward my truck. Behind me, I heard Derek on the phone, voice rising. I didn't look back. I didn't go home. Drove straight to Mickey's, this veterans bar on the edge of Irving, where tradesmen went when they needed to decompress. The owner, Mickey Brennan, was ex-Army Corps of Engineers, ran construction projects in Afghanistan before coming home and buying this place. Found my usual spot at the bar, where I could still see through the window toward Richardson, toward the office building that would be sitting empty tomorrow when the city shut it down. Mickey brought over a Schienerbach without asking. He was maybe 58, stocky, gray hair buzzed military short, hands scarred from decades of real work. Heard Holloway fired you, he said. News travels fast in the trades. Yep. How long you give him? Tomorrow morning, maybe 10 a.m. when the city calls about the permits. Mickey nodded slowly, pulled up a stool. You remember when I told you about that project in Kandahar? I did. but I let him tell it again. Sometimes you need to hear you're not the only one. 2011, Mickey said. We had this captain, fresh out of West Point. Kid thought combat engineering was like playing with Legos, wanted us to cut corners on a fortification project, skip the rebar, use thinner concrete, finish it faster. He took a drink of his coffee. Always coffee, never alcohol. Said he'd seen too much to trust himself with drinking. I told him no, told him exactly what would happen if we built it his way. He threatened to write me up for insubordination. Mickey smiled without humor. Week later, Taliban hit it with an RPG. Structure collapsed, 3 guys wounded because the walls weren't up to spec. They court-martialed the captain, quietly reassigned him, far away from anything that mattered. He looked at me. Sometimes the only way to protect people is to refuse to participate in the stupidity. My phone buzzed. Once, twice, started vibrating continuously. Mickey glanced at it. That him? Probably. I let it ring. Here's what Derek Holloway didn't understand. Electrical permits aren't just paperwork. They're a legal agreement between the licensed master and the jurisdiction that says I am responsible for ensuring this work meets code. It's my name, my license, my liability. When you pull your license from a permit, that permit becomes invalid. All work stops until a new master signs on, reviews everything that's been done, and agrees to stake their license on it. Finding a master electrician willing to take over someone else's job midstream? That's like asking a surgeon to finish someone else's operation without knowing what they did. Most won't touch it. The ones who will charge triple. My phone lit up again. Text from Derek? We need to talk. Then another. Call me immediately. Then, you're making a huge mistake. I finished my beer and ordered another. The bar TV was showing local news. Nothing about Holloway construction yet. That would come tomorrow when permits hit red status and word spread through the contractor community. Around 7 p.m., the calls started coming faster. I recognized some of the numbers, subcontractors on Derek's jobs, other trades who were about to be stuck with no work tomorrow. Miguel Rodriguez texted, heard what happened. Good for you, man, he had it coming. Then, FYI, I pulled my plumbing permits too. Told him weeks ago that supply line sizing was wrong. He ignored me. I smiled. When it rains, it pours. Another text, this one from Lisa Chen, the HVAC contractor. Derek's calling everyone panicking. Says you sabotaged him. I told him you can't sabotage someone by refusing to violate code. He hung up on me. The dominoes were starting to fall. At 9:17 p.m., my phone rang with a number I recognized. Sam Wheeler, inspector for the city of Richardson. Sam was maybe 60, been doing this longer than I'd been licensed. We'd worked together on dozens of projects. Frank, he said, just got an interesting call from the city. Says you pulled your license from the Parkview job. That's right. Want to tell me why? I spent 20 minutes walking him through it. The cheap materials, the unlicensed apprentices, the corner cutting, the documentation I'd kept. Sam listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. How bad is it? He finally asked. Bad enough that I wouldn't put my name on it. That's all I need to know. Pause. I'm scheduling a full inspection first thing tomorrow. 8 a.m., I'll bring my code book and my camera. I already documented the problems. I can send you. Don't, he said firmly. I need to find it myself. Can't have anyone claiming you poisoned the well. But Frank, thank you. You probably just saved lives. After he hung up, I sat there holding my phone. 32 years in this trade, and I'd never felt better about walking away from a job. My wife called around 10:30. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. Rosa wants to know if you need a lawyer. I smiled. My daughter, always ready to fight. Not yet, but keep one on standby. Derek called the house. I hung up on him. Good. Frank, Maria's voice got softer. I'm proud of you. You did the right thing. Hasn't felt right yet. Just feels empty. Give it time. I drove home around midnight. Slept better than I had in months. No anxiety about getting called for an emergency. No wondering if something I wired was going to fail. Just solid, uninterrupted sleep. Woke up at 6 a.m. to find my phone had exploded overnight. 67 messages. 34 missed calls. Made coffee using the ancient Mr. Coffee that Maria kept trying to replace. Sat at the kitchen table and started reading. The city had red-tagged all 3 of Derek's active job sites at 8:02 a.m. No valid electrical permits, no work allowed. Every trade sent home, every timeline destroyed, every contract penalty clause activated. Sam Wheeler's inspection had found exactly what I knew he'd find. Undersized wire, missing GFCI protection, unapproved materials, overcrowded panels, improper grounding. 16 major code violations on just the first floor. The email from the city was clinical. This project cannot proceed until all deficiencies are corrected and a licensed master electrician provides stamped approval of all completed work to date. Derek's text messages told a different story. 8:15 a.m. Frank, city shut us down. Call me. 8:47 a.m. I'll pay you double to come back and sign off. 9:23 a.m. This is costing me $50,000 a day. Call me. 10:05 a.m. You're destroying my business. I'll sue you. 10:52 a.m. Please, I'm sorry, just help me fix this. I deleted them all. Around 11 a.m., my daughter called. Dad, you're trending on the Contractor forums. What? Someone posted about Holloway Construction getting shut down. Word's spreading fast. Everyone's talking about how you documented everything and pulled your permits. She laughed. They're calling you the code enforcer. You're a legend. That's ridiculous. Dad, 3 other electricians have already pulled their licenses from Holloway jobs. He's radioactive. Nobody wants to work for him now. I thought about that. In the tight-knit world of licensed trades, reputation is everything. Once word gets out that a contractor doesn't respect code, doesn't listen to his masters, puts liability on others, you're done. No qualified tradesman will work for you. Around 1 p.m., my phone rang with a 469 area code I didn't recognize. Mr. Castellano. Professional man's voice. This is Robert Chen from Vertex Commercial Electric. I hope this isn't a bad time. I've got time. We've been following your career for a while. We're impressed with your work, your reputation with inspectors, your attention to code. We'd like to make you an offer. What kind of offer? Master electrician position. Senior level. You'd be leading projects, mentoring younger guys, making sure everything's done right the first time. $95,000 base, full benefits, company truck, and profit sharing on projects you lead. That was $20,000 more than Holloway had been paying me. What's the catch? He laughed. No catch. We build hospitals, schools, data centers, projects where failure isn't an option. We need people who know the difference between it works and it's right. You've spent 30 years proving you're that guy. When do you need an answer? Take the weekend. Think it over. But Frank, we know what you're worth, even if Holloway didn't. The lawsuit started rolling in by the end of the week. Parkview Development Corporation sued Holloway Construction for breach of contract. $3.2 million in delays, penalties, and remediation costs. The strip mall owner in Carrollton sued for $1.8 million. The warehouse owner in Louisville sued for $900,000. Every client whose project got shut down wanted blood. Then the insurance company got involved. Turns out Derek's liability policy had a clause requiring all work to be done by licensed, qualified tradesmen in accordance with local code. Using unapproved materials, unlicensed workers, and cutting corners? That voided his coverage. He was on his own. The legal notices started arriving at my house. Not lawsuits. Witness subpoenas. Every client suing Derek wanted me to testify about the code violations, the documentation, the warnings I'd given. The lawyers all said the same thing. Mr. Castellano, you're not in any legal trouble. We need you to explain what happened and why. 1 month after I walked off that job site, I sat in a deposition room downtown. Conference table, court reporter, 4 lawyers in suits, and Derek Holloway looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. The lead attorney was a woman named Jennifer Torres from Parkview's legal team, maybe 40, sharp eyes, expensive suit. Mr. Castellano, you were the master electrician on the Parkview project? Yes, ma'am. She slid a stack of photos across the table. My photos, the ones I documented. Can you explain what we're looking at here? I walked them through it. Wire gauge violations, missing ground fault protection, unapproved materials, panel boxes that didn't meet rating. Boring technical details that meant the difference between safe and deadly. In your professional opinion, would this electrical system have passed inspection? No, ma'am. It would have been red tagged on the first walkthrough. And if somehow it had been missed, what would be the long-term risk? I looked directly at Derek. Thermal overload, arc faults, fire risk. Best case, nuisance tripping and expensive repairs. Worst case, people die. Did you warn Mr. Holloway about these risks? Multiple times, in person, via email, via text. I have timestamps on every warning. Jennifer pulled out printed emails, my emails. Subject lines highlighted, code violation warning, safety concern, Parkview, material certification issue. How did Mr. Holloway respond to these warnings? I read his replies out loud. They got worse as they went. You're overthinking this. Nobody actually checks every circuit. We need to think about cost, not just code. You're being paranoid. That last one made the lawyers look at each other. Mr. Holloway has stated that you sabotaged his projects by pulling your permits. How do you respond? I didn't sabotage anything. I revoked my professional license from projects that no longer met the legal and safety standards I'm bound to uphold. That's not sabotage. That's liability protection. For yourself, for everyone. Workers, occupants, the public. Electricity doesn't care about profit margins. It cares about physics. Jennifer smiled slightly. One final question, Mr. Castellano. In your 32 years as a licensed electrician, how many times have you walked off a job for code violations? Never. This was the first time. Why this time? I thought about Tony Russo, about Maria, about every building I'd wired, knowing families would live and work there for decades. Because Mr. Holloway wasn't just cutting corners. He was cutting the corners that kill people, and I wasn't going to put my name on that. The settlement came through 6 weeks later. Parkview Development got $2.9 million. The other clients combined got another $3.4 million. Derek Holloway filed for bankruptcy 3 days later. Holloway Construction closed permanently. The brand his father built over 40 years, destroyed in 3 years by a kid who thought code was optional. I never reached out, never gloated, never even drove past the Parkview building to see who finished it. I was too busy building things the right way. Today I'm at Vertex Commercial Electric, leading the electrical team on a new children's hospital in Fort Worth. My crew is 8 guys, mix of experienced journeymen and hungry apprentices, all of them licensed or working toward it, all of them trained by me. Rosa graduated with her MBA last month and immediately got hired by a construction management firm. First thing she told them in her interview, I learned from my dad that cutting corners isn't efficiency. It's fraud. They hired her on the spot. Maria retired from nursing last year. Now she volunteers teaching electrical safety at community colleges. Says someone needs to explain to kids why those code books exist. Last week, I got a call from a young electrician named Marcus. Took me a second to place the name. One of the apprentices Derek tried to put under my license. Mr. Castellano? I just wanted to say thank you. After you left and that whole thing went down, I realized I was being set up. I went and got proper training, worked under a real master for 3 years, just got my journeyman license. That's good, I said. You doing it right now? Yes, sir. Everything by code, everything safe. You taught me that without ever teaching me directly. After we hung up, I sat in my truck outside the hospital site, watching the steel go up, knowing that in 6 months I'd be wiring every floor of this place. Knowing that sick kids would depend on that power staying on those circuits being safe, on me keeping my promise to people I'd never meet. My foreman, Dave Santos, knocked on my window. Frank, inspector's here early, wants to walk the 2nd floor. Good, I said. Let's show him how it's done. That night, I met Mickey at the bar. Same corner spot, same view of nothing in particular. Heard Vertex gave you the hospital project, he said. Yep, biggest job of my career. You earned it. He raised his coffee cup. To doing it right. I raised my beer. To doing it right. We drank to that. There's a difference between cutting corners and craftsmanship, between working fast and working safe, between making money and making things that last. 32 years I spent learning that difference. Derek Holloway learned it in 6 weeks the hard way. And somewhere in Fort Worth, there's going to be a children's hospital where every switch works, every circuit is safe, every wire is exactly what it needs to be. That's not revenge. That's just code. So that's my story. Part of me still wonders if I should have tried harder to teach Derek instead of just walking away. The guy lost everything, his business, his dad's legacy, his reputation. Maybe I could have handled it differently. My daughter says some people only learn through consequences, and Maria says I did what I had to do. But 32 years in this trade, and this is the only time I ever walked off a job. Was I right to draw that hard line, or am I just a stubborn old man who couldn't adapt? What would you have done?